Páirce with Tomás McCarthy on WLR.
With Hooper Dolan Insurances. For business insurance you can rely on. More info at hooperdolan.ie.
So on Monday night in Lawlor's Hotel, former County Board Secretary Timmy O'Keeffe called for an independent review of Waterford Hurling. And he joins me now in our Plaza studios here in Dungarvan. And Timmy, I suppose everybody's looking for answers after that Munster Championship that Waterford have just had. Can you talk us through what you have in mind?
Well, yeah, I suppose basically we didn't have a good Munster Championship this year anyway. Got off to a bad start and never really got going after that. But basically what I was saying on Monday night is that maybe if we got a group of maybe 5 or 6 kind of independent people, but obviously some of them who might have connections to the GA, but just to look at how we're managing our county teams. Have we enough of expertise? Are they getting enough of support from supporters, from the county board, from the executive, from sponsors? What level of expertise do we need? And I think that should be for both senior and minor. And also maybe we need to look at some of the development squads to see if we're developing players in the right way through that system, So basically looking, I mentioned a couple of names. I haven't spoken to any of these people, but I talked to people at the calibre of the county manager, Michael Welsh. He was a former inter-county hurler and he was manager of the minor team there and won the Munster final. John Maloney, former general manager of Glanbia, he's retired now and he obviously would have, it was one of the country's biggest companies at the time, so he'd have big experience. Somebody like Fergal Hartley, maybe, he's, again, huge involvement there with Ballygunner and Waterford. And Dermot Cantlin there, horse racing in I think he's based in Tallow. He would be big into the GA. And I also suggested that we should get somebody maybe from outside, like a former inter-county winning manager. And I mentioned Cyril Farrell. I don't know the man, I never met him. Whether he'd be willing to do it or not, I don't know. But people like that, I think why Farrell would be interesting is that he won an All-Ireland with Galway and they hadn't won one for quite a while before he came along, so we're in pretty much the same boat. So that was kind of the thinking. I'm not trying to take a swipe at any management in actual fact. People saying that the manager should resign, or they're only knee-jerk reactions. You need to think about it a lot more logically than that,
And what would this review involve on a practical level, Timmy?
Well, I think they'd have to look into, the relationships between. The group should interview the various the management teams, a good cross-section of the players, the executive of the county board, and maybe even go out there, have a meeting with supporters and the sponsors and look into how we're doing it and the level of support we get. You look at the likes of, I suppose, Dublin are the prime example of, at the moment, how things are doing well now. They have an exceptionally good team as well. This is in football. But the backup that they have is quite extraordinary. And that level of backup is probably needed, And we need to make sure, the time to look at it is now. There's no point in letting us get into decline and then saying in 10 years' time, Jenny, it was a pity we didn't do that. You see there with Offaly when you go into decline. It's very, very hard to get back out of it again, So I think all aspects of it should be looked at just to make sure that we're doing it right and whatever can be improved should be improved.
Yeah, I think you mentioned on Monday night the dark days of the 80s when Waterford lost to Mayo and Roscommon in the league. Timmy, would you be worried that Waterford could slip down the rankings unless there's kind of action taken pretty urgently?
I certainly remember those days, and they weren't pleasant. Yeah, beaten by Mayo and Roscommon and Hurling, and we drew with Meath over in Ardmore. And I think the other teams we played were Wicklow and Armagh, and that was in Hurling. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't pleasant. Now I know there was a somewhat different structure there then, but at the same time we were in the bottom division, and you should always be looking to see how you're doing things right. And you can see in other sports, some of the great soccer teams in the UK who are in the old first division, they're down very much at the bottom now. So yeah, once you get into a slide, it can be very hard to arrest it. So I think the time to look at that is when you're going reasonably well, so that the slide doesn't happen.
And if this review is to be carried out, Timmy, I believe it's in the hands of the county executive at the moment. Is there an onus on the board to implement the recommendations brought forward? Because there's been reports done in the past in this county and others that haven't been acted upon.
Well, so look, that's really up to the executive of the county board. They're going to be the ones that'll have to take it on board, and if they do, well and good, and if they don't, I guess I can't do anything about it. But I think that a review like that shouldn't take very long. I think it should be in place and report back by September to see what changes can be made, and we should act on as many of them as we can anyway.
From your own perspective, Timmy, is there anything that you would have in mind in terms of where Waterford are falling short in terms of hurling at the moment?
No, I couldn't. Look, I was only a bad junior hurler, so I wouldn't have the technicalities of it. But I suppose, ball winning forwards is maybe one of the areas that we seem to struggle from a lot of puck outs, So maybe we haven't, in the underage structures, maybe we're not encouraging enough lads to put up their hand for the high ball coming out. So I'm not sure really, but we seem to have a lot of our forwards and big strong men who can win the ball over their head, and that's something we probably need to work on.
And what sort of response have you got so far at Timmy since Monday night?
Anyone I met said it would be an interesting thing to do. There wasn't I didn't meet any negative comment about it anyway.
Very good. And Timmy, I suppose before you go, one of your own Clashmore Kinsale Beg clubmen, Brian O'Halloran, retired from inter-county hurling last Saturday night after the loss to Cork. He spent 10 years at Waterford. When did you first notice his talent in Clashmore?
From a very young age. It was our first time ever winning under 14. We won under 12, under 14, under 16 and minor A football and B hurling with the same team all the way up. And sure, look, the reality of life is that by and large Brian was carrying the team, so he was exceptional from a very young age and a real gentleman, and we'll be sorry to see him go, but look, he's given 10 good years to the county, so I guess his time has come. Because, the players know best themselves. It is a tough old slog there. It's not easy being in the county hurler, and he was a wonderful player and a real gentleman and a really nice guy.
Yeah, what were his main attributes as a hurler?
Well, his first touch was exceptional, and he also had an incredible turn of pace. He could get away from you so quickly, and great vision as well. He could pick out a pass like that most other people wouldn't even see.
Yeah, it must have been a very proud moment to see himself and Tig de Borca lining out in an All-Ireland final. They kind of put Clashmore on the map to me.
I did, Jan. I often made the point that hurling came late to Clashmore. There was very little hurling in Clashmore until the mid-1960s.
Right.
So, tis a lot of progress in a relatively short time. So he was a wonderful ambassador for the club, and we wish him well. I presume he'll be lining out in the red and green for another decade, so we're looking forward to that. Yeah,
is senior hurling the dream now for Clashmore Kinsale Beg after winning the Western Intermediate last year?
Oh yeah, we'd make no secret of the fact we'd like to be dual senior club. Yeah, it would be a fantastic achievement if we can do that, but that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Timmy, thanks a million for dropping in this evening. Plenty of food for thought there for all GA followers out there, and we'll catch up with you again very soon.
Thanks, Tomas.